Finding the appropriate replacement for a viscous fan clutch is easy when you have the original part number. But what if the customer can't find a part number for his current fan clutch? Never fear, we have a system for that too. There are several measurements that can be taken from the current fan clutch which will help to determine an appropriate replacement. Once those measurements are gathered, simply go to the Identify Your Viscous section under the Products tab at kitmasters.com. Plug in the measurements and the website will guide you to which components to use to build the fan clutch. Let's take a look at these required measurements. The first piece of information we need actually pertains to the fan blade. What we need to know is the overall diameter of the fan blade. This will determine which spectrum head we use. Next, we need to determine the rotational direction of the fan clutch. Some viscous clutches have arrows on the front that show the rotation. If yours does not, you will need to look at the engine fan. Simply place the fan, engine side down, on the table or floor. Now, look at the blade that is in the 12 o'clock position. One side of that blade will be resting on the table and the other will be raised. If the right side is raised, your viscous clutch rotation is clockwise. If the left side is raised, your clutch rotates counterclockwise. Once we know the rotation, we will need to look at the bracket on the viscous clutch. We need to determine if it is a bolt-on style or a screw-on style. A bolt-on style means that it has a mounting flange that requires studs or bolts to mount it to the vehicle. A screw-on style is threaded and is usually mounted to the water pump. Now it's time for some fan clutch measurements. To be as accurate as possible, you should use a caliper. If you have a bolt-on style bracket, you will need to measure the drive bolt circle and the drive pilot. The drive bolt circle is measured from the center of one bolt hole on the mounting flange to the center of the bolt hole on the opposite side of the flange. The drive pilot is found by measuring the diameter of the pilot hole at its widest point. The drive pilot is on the back side of the bracket. Some bolt-on brackets have a male pilot. This dimension can be found by measuring the widest part of the outside of the male pilot. Now, regardless of what style of mounting brackets you have, you need to measure the length of the fan clutch. However, this doesn't mean the overall length of the entire fan clutch. To get the length measurement, measure from the back of the mounting bracket to the base of the fan studs. This measurement determines how near to or how far from the radiator the fan will be placed. The next measurement we need is the fan pilot. This is measured by simply finding the small lip on the fan clutch which fits inside of the pilot hole on the fan. Measure it at the widest point. You also can measure the pilot hole in your fan to obtain this measurement. Now, we need to measure the fan bolt circle. This is found by measuring the center-to-center distance between two opposing fan studs. If your fan clutch does not have fan studs, simply measure from the center of the fan mounting bolt holes. If you have a screw-on style bracket on your viscous clutch, this is where we will have to determine the thread type on the bracket. The Spectrum cart comes with thread gauges just for this reason. Simply attempt to screw the thread gauges into the threaded bracket until you find the one that fits. Once you find the right one, look at the gauge, as it will indicate the thread size. That's the final measurement that you will need. Now that you have all of these measurements, you can go to kitmasters.com, click on Products, and then the drop-down menu, go to Identify Your Viscous. Once there, enter your measurements and you will be given the part number of the complete Spectrum fan clutch, along with the part numbers of the components required to build that clutch. A Spectrum distributor can now easily build the fan clutch, or the complete assembled fan clutch can be ordered from Kitmasters.